Alright, let's give Citadel of Blood a try. It's kind of interesting. A fair amount of people responded. Apparently, people are kind of excited about this one. I don't know. I think it's a pretty shitty game, but we'll see. Maybe I'll enjoy it more in front of the camera. That's happened before. So I'm going to draw my three heroes. The first one is Thurgond, something like that. Thurgond. Okay, a human with a lot of Hellgate. That's really good. It's good to have, like, obviously Wendelin has higher Hellgate, but Thurgond has a good amount of wound points, decent magic, a good sword skill. Should be a useful character. Let's get the next one. Oh, my favorite, Sliggoth. Swamp creature has a D-trap, not enough. I want to get more D-trap, but honestly, if you don't get Zurich, I don't think that there's a good thief. Not a lot of magic. This is combat bonus. What's RV? Resistance value. Has a bonus with axe. That was one thing to look at, was what weapons are best. And if you look at the weapons chart, and somebody mentioned this, the axe and the hammer, and the hammer is especially the best. By a little bit. By a little bit. It depends on what your bonuses are and whatnot. Okay. And one last. Oops. We get Deirdre. A non-magic human, +1 with hammer, some combat ability. Oh, decent combat bonus comparatively. Lord Dill is like the massive combat one. Deirdre comes with 1 Hellgate. Okay. That could be a backup if I need it. So what I'm going to do, they give a character sheet. I'm going to try to figure out something that I think is going to be more usable to me than something along this line. And then I will also try to figure out what other characters I want, because I get three initiates or whatever. We'll just put that away because I don't want to have 2 cups on the table if I don't need them. I laid something out a little better from my point of view. Wound points, I can mark these down with pencil as they go down. As characters go up in level, if I give advantages, I'm going to have to pen over it. I may just write up new character sheets, for each adventure, because I'm expecting there to be deaths. I'm expecting this to just kick my ass, to be honest, because I think it always has. There's a whole... it's one of the problems I have with solo games. Like, if you can't configure them to make them easier or harder or whatever, the way you can, like with Mage Knight. At the easy level, I had trouble. You don't really have an easy capability. Now, you could cheat this, you could, increase values of all the characters, etc. But, if you don't know what's going on, you're not in a position to say, I'm going to face an easy game of this. There really should be some advice as to how to make the game easier. Now, you can definitely make it harder by playing less characters. That's fitted into the game. But there's no reason why you can't, like, modify some of the combat capabilities, or, give everybody an experience, a point of experience or something to begin with beyond what they would usually have. But the feeling is that this should be pretty easy, and I know it's not. Okay, what I didn't do yet is select spells. I'm giving them their starting weapons that they're listed as having, not necessarily that I would choose. So, you know, for example, she has a +3 sword skill. And so, yeah, she's going to carry a sword with her. But a thrown dagger, first of all, it seems obvious that there's two different types of weapons, dagger and thrown dagger, which I don't really like. I feel like, you know, if for some reason, you know, a dagger should just be a dagger, right? Yeah, I know. I've owned daggers that are built for throwing and ones that are not. But yeah, it feels kind of weird that it's a totally different weapon. Kind of feels like it should be, I don't know, the skill should allow you both, just to, because it's such a shitty weapon. But yeah, the axe and the bow, the hammer and a sword. Why are you carrying two hand-to-hand weapons? You know, I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of like if we find weapons in the dungeon. In terms of, you know, let's say we find a big bonus sword. Well, she's going to take it, but let's say she dies, then, you know, who's going to pick it up then? I don't know. In terms of skills, I am completely missing negotiation skill. And I think I should probably take someone with that. And that's kind of beneficial because I don't have a lot of ranged weaponry. My heroes, Theragrand has a good sword capability. I want her in the front. An axe and a hammer, those sound like people I want in the front. So what I think I'm going to probably do is equip everyone with bows. But having an elf with a negotiation seems like a good idea. I do not have much in the way of D-trap. On top of that, for combat, the dwarf is not bad at all. 6 wound points, a resistance of 2, combat bonus with the axe, which is not quite as good as the hammer, but it's close. It's a little worse at 1 value. On a roll of a 12, it ends up doing 1 less point of damage. So, yeah, the dwarf is a good choice for combat, but I have 2 characters with Hellgate, so I don't think I'm going to take another human, even though they have the most wound points. None of these have any combat bonus. So I think I will be taking me maybe 2 elves and a dwarf. Give me more bow fighting capability because that's 2nd rank. If possible, I want to make it through the 1st round, right? So let's see. Big dwarf C, and elf A and elf B. And the characters that I regenerate with, if they're heroes that die, I get new heroes, which feels a little funky to me. It's like, I don't know. And if I lose an initiate, I get a new initiate. Okay. I'm going to set these guys up with their initial stats, but after that, I'm allowed, well, before I write everything down, I'm allowed to take either a wound point, a bonus of a skill weapon, or a bonus on the actual skill. And I'm going to probably, with the elves, I'm going to probably take 1 at +2 bow and 1 at +2 negotiation, because I think negotiation is a way to get around some of the problems in the game. For the backup dwarf, oh boy, I'll probably take a 2D trap. And on top of all that, I have to roll their magic capability. And I actually do that before I increase these other things. Increasing wound points doesn't seem like a great idea. I can't increase their base combat bonus, so yeah. Choosing names is highly important. I'm going back to my first dwarf in D&D, who was named Stubby. But then I looked at the elf characters, and I noticed we got a bald, bearded elf. What's up with that, man? So I decided I wanted to play on that, so I called this one Airful, and this one Emptet. Just so I can get a better feel for them. Okay, on top of that, now the next thing we do is we roll the magic potential for each initiative. Okay, so let's see what our dwarf is. Our dwarf is a 0-1-2, which means he'll have 2 spells. Our first elf, elven magic doesn't exist. And our final one. And this is weird, another 0-1-2, because it's like, it's not like you get, you know, a balancing of your character or anything like that. There were attempts in their role-playing game to balance the characters out. All right. Now I choose my bonuses, and I think I'll go with what I went with before, which is the dwarf will take another point of D-trap, and one elf will take a point of negotiation, one elf will take a point of bow, I guess. I'm not going to have a lot of magic, and we don't know what we're going in against. Like, we don't know what kind of sun is available. It really feels like you should be able to choose. Like, I would look through my characters and I would say, okay, I've got 3 who are at their best on one type of sun. You know, it doesn't seem like this is any kind of real emergency situation, since we can leave and come back and it's a month later, but we just happen to choose like the week that's bad for us. Feels very, very weird here. Compare this to another one that I did, Valkenburg's Castle, which just had a much, much better structure around it. Didn't have character advancement or anything like that, but the rest of the system just felt so much more like there was this little economy going on, you know, where you could like loot the dungeon to get better goods so that you could, you know, bring in better equipment and whatnot. You don't have anything like that here. All you have here is, well, what you loot, you don't have much choice in, right? It's the monsters you had to face and kill and what they randomly had, as opposed to, you know, you have some real choices in Valkenburg's Castle. Like, do you go after the dragon first? Because that's an interesting way to get into the dungeon, and it can get you a shit ton of loot. And it opens up all kind of interesting options if you choose that route or the other. But the game still wasn't all that good. All right. So yeah, I'll fill out the rest. And on top of that, I filled that out. In terms of weaponry, I'm giving the dwarf a bow because, you know, yeah, it's better than the other option, which is the thrown dagger if you're going to be in the second rank. So we want the secondary weapon to be that. And I gave both the elves hammers because what could be a more elven weapon than a hammer, man? I really feel like there should be, I don't know, you know, some kind of favoring weapons that are more culturally appropriate or whatever. Anyway, screw that, man. We're going for the best advantages we can get. Now comes the tricky part. It's time to allocate the spells, and that's tough. It really is. I've got all this magic on one of my frontline fighters. This is going to be like more a healer and utility spellcaster, I think. In fact, that's what I'm going to do with both the frontline people, whereas the backline is going to be more likely to take attack spells. But I gotta kind of work through it because I don't have much in the way of skills, right? So attack spells aren't necessarily very good. If I fight with my bow, my +2 bow, I roll just one die, chances are I do a point of damage with that. Probably. Maybe. Without the +2 bow, chances are I don't do anything. Like the people who have like a +1 or a 0, I'm likely to do much damage. So it's kind of a thought. If these guys are going to be in that second line, maybe they want to take some attack spells. The problem with attack spells are that those are going to eat up hit points. And I'm going to need healing spells. And remember, healing, you only get X number of heals, you know, over the course of the game for all of those. The only thing that's an exception to that is the resurrection, which resurrects at full wound points. If anything's sort of part of the nature of a character, I feel like it's the type of spells that they choose. In addition, you know, the weaponry, their basic combat capability, whatever. Wow, he's going to be nice with it. Both of these have 4 combat. Nice. Okay. But this one has a +3 sword, which makes up for that as long as she's using the right weapon. Okay. So what have I chosen for spells? So one of the things that I had to decide was the balance that I'm likely to get. So all of my characters are best over on the rightmost sun, which is, I don't remember what. I don't remember. It's like red, yellow, green, or red, yellow, blue. I don't remember the order of them. But anyway, whatever the rightmost sun is, 3 of our characters would be at their best at that. But if they're at that, Theragrond is at her worst. So I wanted to kind of balance things, and I gave everyone heal. I gave these 2 rejuves, which might be iffy because, yes, they're in the front row. You don't really want to take wound points, but they can kind of play off each other. A stone to flesh, which, I mean, that's an instant death if it happens, so I felt like that's important. An orate, because I don't have a lot of negotiate. I only have 2, and that adds like 4 to it, which it doesn't guarantee, but it comes close. Right? I don't remember how this works. It sounds like a huge bonus. Yeah. It gives us a chance. Like, we have almost no chance on negotiation without casting that. In which case, maybe I shouldn't have taken a negotiator. I should have taken another bow attack. A thief over here, because again, I don't have a hell of a lot of D-trap. I have 2 here. Thief, I think, again, adds a decent amount. Let me see. Let me see what these are. Oratory adds 4 to the negotiation roll. Thief adds 3 to a D-trap attempt. And every fucking door could be trapped, you know. Yeah, they only have a 1 in 6, but whatever. A bunch of doors are likely to be trapped, plus stuff that I find. Then down here, following that same, hey, let's take the offensive here, the lightning on the dwarf and charm on the elf. Because bald elves are just so fucking charming. The reason for charm, every attack requires a resistance roll. Like, if I want to do just like a magic missile type thing, the blast, the 1-point hit or whatever, There's a, maybe it's 2. There's a resistance check against that. So it's like, I don't know if I want to do that. I took the heavier attack spell because I feel like doing just a couple of points of damage isn't really that valuable. So being able to boost it to, like, yes, it's less efficient energy-wise, but being able to boost it makes it a little bit more valuable. Otherwise, I'll just shoot my bow, right? Okay, so we're getting close. Now we're about to go in. And I don't know. Oh, who's got the biggest hits? Kind of doesn't matter. And with these, I really don't think it matters, but we'll take that as our current march order, and we might have to change that at some point. We determine the predominant sun. It's a 5, which means it's the right-hand value. So now I pick spells off of each. Now these have all their spells. I think this was the best result. I only get to pick 2 here. This is painful. But I think I will take Rejuvenate and Orate and hope to hell that I don't run into a Medusa. And everybody else has full spell use, so that's kind of cool. All right, we're about ready to start. Well, we are ready to start. But I'm afraid to. I'm afraid to. All right, let's see how the game starts. I don't want to go too far. I want to take a break very shortly. So we move. We're on the wrong side here because we're going through a quarter. So it goes like this. We'll position it this way. We move into the space, and I think it's on a 1. I'm not going to look it up. It's a 1 in 6 chance that there's a monster. Oh, lucky me. Oh, this is going to be fun. All right. So a die result calls for a monster. We look for a wandering monster here. Room monster, no. Wandering monster. Red will be the second die because it's easier for me. I always cross-reference across the top first. So we get a 6-1, we get a Chimera. Okay. Those are something I have. We use base values for the monsters. How many do we get? Just 1. That's good. I'm going to need a piece of scrap paper to keep track of its hits and whatnot. But let's look up what that means. First of all, it's got a resistance value of 2, which is not on the sheet. An envy, negotiation value of 7. Negotiation may be a lot harder than I thought. Well, we may not be doing any of that. I may have chose poorly. I gotta swap battery. I may have chosen badly in the same way that I did. I played Shadowrun. I had played it a few times, like made 2 or 3 characters before, and I decided, okay, I'm gonna try something new. I'm gonna try, a non-wired, non-physical adept troll. And boy, was that a waste. Like, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't act or anything. It's just like, there are what seem like reasonable choices that, like, They are not. They're just not. And it's a bad idea to be non-human in general in Shadowrun, and like you pay your biggest cost for that. But I just wanted to try something very, very different that didn't look particularly good, but it was for a one-shot. And okay, so let's look at negotiation again. How does negotiation work? You roll 2d6. Wow, is combat 2d6? We're going to be doing a lot more damage than I thought, if that's the case. All kind of information here. Now you roll 1d. No, that's something else. Get me to the heart of this. Now you only roll 1d6. Okay. They should have an armor value or something like, I don't know. Okay, so negotiation is 2d6 minus the monster's negotiation plus the character skill. So if I wanted to negotiate with this monster, and I probably don't. I know that it's my plan, but if I cast my oratory, which is like a +4, and used my orator with a 2 negotiate, I'd be at a -1 on 2 dice on the negotiation table, which, you know, probably would get me by. But what I want to do, what's its resistance value again? Its resistance value is a 2. That's not huge. It's not as low as it might be. But this is a fairly potent creature, I think. With, I mean, maybe I just beat it up. What the hell? It only has 7 wound points, right? Yeah, I think I just kill it, because I don't want to waste. At some point or another, I'm going to try to negotiate with. I'm going to try to charm a monster, but I don't think this is the time to do it. Even though it's a decent monster to grab, with, again, where's the points here? Oh no, this is number of wound points. Ooh. 2 dice plus 2 wound points with a 7 combat bonus. Let's compare that, because maybe it only has a resistance of 2. And it has fire breath. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. That's nasty. Yeah, let's try to cast on it. So, I am going to do my first thing, which is a charm off of her. Charm, I don't have the costs of the spells written down. Oh, I forgot to roll for my heals. Let's see how we are there. We get, roll a d6 to determine the number of times you can heal or rejuvenate. Okay. So I took a rejuve here. Let's get these written down. I only get to do that once. Red for the rejuve. 6 and 3. Yeah. Good luck with that if nobody else has much. Heal down here. 4 heals. And a heal over here, which will be 2. Okay. Now, let's go back to the charm, which is way back here. That's going to cost me 3 of my wound points. So I'm down to a 2. Ouch. And we try to charm it. It has to make a resistance check. Where's that? So I need higher than a 2, and I have a new party member. I actually probably should know its strength first. 2 dice plus 2. Okay, so it's worth 11 hit points. And let's see, I'd better charm it. I do. Okay, so I have a buddy with me who will probably take a place in the front rank now. And that's an interesting situation. Now I have someone with a combat bonus of 7, which is better than any of my others. Of course, it'll be on the monster table. And fire breathing. That's going to go in the front rank, but who am I going to demote and to where? I have no missile capabilities out of any of these. Who is my worst fighter? I've got a 4. I've got a 5. I've got a 5. So Theragrand is going to fall back to the back. And we're going to put this Shimra here. We'll call it her shimmy. And honestly, that was a pretty good result. Yeah. But I also look at it and say, wow, that would be hell to fight, right? Like, if I didn't choose to come in with a charm spell, now I can do something else at this point, which I think I want to, which is to heal. Now I'm back 3 hit points. Let's take a look at my healing options. Heal does a D3 plus 1. Rejuvenate does more. I have 6 heals up here with someone in the front line. I'm going to use them. Heal costs a hit point from him. And a D3 plus 1. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What I mean is I roll it as if it, I roll and subtract 3 if it's greater. So this is actually fully healed. I just figured I'd tell you that so I'm not cheating. The game is like divided by 2 and add 1. Yeah, I know, but that's just not how I like to do it. That reminds me of, had a guy I used to play Rollmaster with, and Rollmaster is a percentile dice system, and he would just switch which die was the tens digit every time, like to whatever he wanted it to be. And I just would let him do it and like do the same against him, basically. Or do other things, you know, and I don't know. He never really caught on that like horrible stuff would happen to him because I was watching him cheat just constantly. But, you know, after he would leave, we would all joke about, you know, what was happening. But I'm trying to assure you, part of me is hoping to be done with this already. All right, so we made it through a corridor, and we actually came out with what I think is a pretty good result, which is getting about as good a fighter as, no, a better fighter than I have, honestly, in the front line, with more hits, and that's why Charm is so amazing. Like, you know, and I could fill my front rank up with them and put people in the third rank. They won't be able to fight in combat, but not even with spells, but I'll have this padding, a larger party. It's one of the problems is you just don't have enough hits to like face things. So if you don't go in, like, I don't know what you can do, but Charm is definitely one of the more valuable things. It won't work against against high resistance monsters, it could have fucked me over, and I could have just lost my party or something, you know, or most of it, and had to retreat there on a roll of, you know, on 1/3 chance. But I probably wasn't going to win the combat. Like, I probably was going to get mauled by a Shimra here. It's just the way the game is. It's really, really looks harsh. Like I was saying with the, you know, the oratory question, am I like, you know, it is quite possible to make really bad choices in this game right from the beginning without thinking too hard. And I think it's quite possible to make incredibly powerful choices. I don't think it's like balanced in the sense of, oh, well, we could go in with a combat heavy party and just bust our way through it. Nah, you can't. You gotta really play the system, you know, you gotta game the system as much as possible. Which, you know, to me it feels like they didn't try to tweak the system and balance it out at all. And so something like Charm is very, very potent. But it might not be against everything. Like a bunch of Kronks, it would not be. I wouldn't want to charm them. And maybe an explosion would actually be good. A horrible spell normally. What are Kronks? Well, I mean, they still have a die +1 hit points. So they're not trivial to kill. I mean, you don't do a lot of damage with your attacks. Okay, I guess let's try to get a little bit more in. We moved a piece. Okay, down the corridor, what do we see? It's a pain in the ass. I'm going to keep the party off here. So I could go this way, which would be annoying, or this way. A room is less likely to cause me issues. So we're over here. And again, 1 in 6 chance of a wandering monster. By the way, I had somebody respond, Death Maze wasn't an expansion of this, according to him. And this sounds correct to me. Like, I remember looking up Death Maze when I first like got on BGG, because I was like, oh, a full game of this might have more interesting stuff going on, you know, more character advancement type reasons and whatnot. And apparently it was actually a cut back version of it. Okay, so no wandering monster. Well, we need to explore the room. This is complex. So first, this has something additional to it that we haven't dealt with, which is the door. When we enter a room for the first time, we have to check the doorway for a trap. Oh boy, I thought not every door was trapped. You must check the doorway. Treasure chests must be similarly. A trap may be distrapped. Should an attempted trap fail? Ah. So the problem is we will not find mirrors unless we go into rooms. So I think there's just a trap. Well, let's look at the trap table, make sure. But I think it just fucking hits you. I thought there was only a 1 in 6 on regular doors, yeah. Crap. So I only have a 2-point D-trap, right? And I have a spell, Thief, which allows me to increase my D-trap by a lot. And becomes less valuable if you start increasing your D-trap. Oh, fuck. It increases it by 3 on the current detrapped attempt. Okay. Well, I think I have to because it's too dangerous. So we will spend one of these. That gets him down to a 6. And that puts my trap. I'm going to do the detrap with Stubby. So 1 through 5, I detrap the door. And this is why it's such a hard game. Is like you're going to face a trap everywhere. And you're going to face monsters everywhere. So we enter a room. Oh shit, did I? No. Okay, so this is the room entry piece. I cannot place this in a way that doesn't conflict with the Hellgate. So I draw for a different room, one that won't conflict with the dungeon. So again, I can't place this in a way that doesn't conflict. So I try again. I find a staircase, but again it would conflict. Another conflict. Here's one. This I can place this way. It has a fountain in it. All these go back in. And we have a possibility of a monster. Is that a fountain or is that a statue? I think that's a fountain. Okay. But I can't deal with the fountain yet. I have to check for the monster. Well, I don't remember. Is there always a monster? I think it's a 5 and 6 chance. No, it's a 1, 2, or 3 there's a monster. Okay. Let's see what we got. Yeah, we got a monster. And what do we face? And you know, I mean, you're just flipping through, you know, drawing things, rolling up random encounters, etc. There's nothing really interesting going on, you know. All right, and that's what, like I said, it's like the D&D random dungeon generator, but like you have to learn a whole separate game for it. Whereas, presumably, you know, you might want the D&D one. Again, red will be on top. 6-1, it's Medusa. Okay, we did not take the stone to flesh, so that's not good. I've only got 1 Medusa. I don't get any multipliers or anything. I look through here and, hey, we got one. Okay, Medusa is going to have 2 dice, but she has special abilities. Each time she attacks, on a 6, she turns somebody to stone. I don't think that's terribly impressive. A 2-point attack isn't that scary. So, I think we are going to, well, we'll try to negotiate without working too hard at it. Let's look up Medusa. Medusa has a resistance of 2, a negotiation of 5. Our negotiation is, you don't know what. Where's our negotiator? Our negotiation is 2. So that's going to be 2 dice at -3 on the negotiation table. We got a chance. No. We could try to bribe her. Not going to do that. We don't have any cash. So we're going to face our first monster. Now I need to get a scrap of paper. I want to use this. I'll roll up her hit points here, which is a big 12. Lucky us. Okay, so she's got 12. We get first swing automatically. Deirdre has a skill of hammer +5. That's an 11. That's pretty good. That's 2 hits. Okay. Our Hydra has a skill of monster +7. Or, sorry, our Shimra. Which is a 12. So 2 more hits. Down to 8. And fire breathes. It was a good idea to charm that, and we got lucky that we got it on the first. So we flipped through the book again, looking and looking and looking for monster special ability wherever it is. There we go. No, that's spells. See the stone to flesh. It's got to be after this. Yep. Where is it? Where is it? There we go. All the way over here. Okay. An additional wound if it doesn't make its resistance check. We check. I should have her resistance on here. Because she's one of mine, you know. There we go. But the Medusa also has a resistance of 2. Does not take the extra damage. Sligoth. Sligoth has a +5 attack with an axe. That's a 10. That only gets us to here. How the fuck do you ever get up here? You know? That's 2 more hits. We're getting a shot here. Dwarf C. I'm going to hold off on him. I'm going to fire my +2 bow elf. That's +2 on bow. I need a 3 or higher to hit. That gets a point. We really don't want to suffer any attacks. And this felt like a situation where we could avoid suffering. But, okay. So, the other elf is at just +1 on bow. That's a 3. That's not going to do shit. And now the dwarf has a lightning. That's not going to do enough damage, is it? It might be worth avoiding an attack, is what I'm saying. So, you know, we flip through this whole book again. It's 1d3 +2. If I got really, really lucky, I could incinerate it. I don't think I'm going to get that lucky. The Medusa is not that dangerous. So, although I really don't want to lose my Shimmer. 1d2. What was it? What am I doing? I'm armed with a bow at no bonus. I think a 4 doesn't do shit, because this game doesn't let you do any damage with your characters, basically. Like, I do not get to use Thorond too far back. That means it's the monster turn. I believe the monster attacks the thing right in front of it. I think that's just how it goes. And since, so the Medusa has a combat value of 2. Not going to hit. That's cool. We probably kill it then. But we look up its special ability again. Each time a Medusa may turn, each time it attacks a character, roll a d6. If a 6 is rolled, we're fucked. Nope. Okay. Now we get to come back with another round of combat, and that should be relatively easy. Deirdre has a 5 on the hammer. That's an 8. Does a point. Beep, beep, beep. Now imagine if there was like more than one monster, right? You know? Yes, so far we're having it pretty easy. The next one is our monster, who is at big +7. Again, such a good move to charm that thing. 10, that does a whole point of damage. This was at 4, now it's at 3. Sligoth is at like +5 or something like that. We got to look it up every time. +5 with an axe. That's a big 11. That does 2 points of damage. Ooh. Oh boy, this is exciting. You can see how much fun we're having, right? Like, I really don't like systems where you're just like attritioning one another, and then like the monsters are kind of scary because they might have special abilities, etc. We go back, let's go to the big bow at +3, I think it was. Okay, that will finish this Medusa off. All right, we're going to swap batteries, and then we'll look at the spoils from this. Before we go any further with spoils, let's look at the XP that we get, which is based on the hit points. Number of wound points the monster had before multiplied by 6. So, essentially, we had 12 wound points, so every one of our characters gets 12 XP. Now, this is screwed up because, again, I could just keep track of 1 XP total that the whole party's getting, that every member of the party gets. If somebody dies, the factor switches. You multiply by 6, divide by 5 then, you know. But everybody still gets the same amount. That's the first thing. Treasure. This treasure type G, I believe. Medusa G. Is G one of the types that's trapped? No. There's a 50-50 chance of chests being trapped. So we look for treasure type G. We look for a treasure. Here we go. G. 3d6 times 5 gold marks. What does that 6 mean? I think that's the chance of it happening. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get gold, which we'll split up. But then a 1 through 3 we get jewels. Okay, so we have jewels, and on a 1 or a 2 we have a magic item. We don't have a magic item. Jewels. God, this is annoying. Because we're going to, you know, this is, again, it's like a D&D game, except here I am, you know, trying to figure out how to split the party treasury as it stands. And what we're going to do is, I don't remember how many jewels we got. I don't remember. Did we get like 6 jewels? I don't recall. I'll re-roll. Okay, we get 4 jewels. What I have to do at this point to make things reasonably fair is I'm going to have to roll up all the jewels and then try to balance them out with cash. And some of the cash will be invested in jewels. This is just stupid, right? Like, don't give me these stupid fucking jewels. You know? They're just complicating the whole issue. So what I'm going to do to make life easy is I'm just going to make everything into cash and just say, fuck it, I'm not going to deal with this stupid jewel thing. I'm going to create a straight value of cash. So we had 4 jewels. 25, 35, 60, 85. So I start off with 85 bucks here. And then, what else did we have? 3 dice times 5. 4, 9, another 45 bucks. So we're going to be at 130. Now I have 6 members. And again, this would just be made harder by dealing with the jewels as individual items. I would have to write them down with their value next to each one and, you know, basically just try to do the balancing in a more difficult manner. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but that does, like, make it kind of who did all the work here, whatever. So 130 divided by 6 is 21 with 4 to bonus. Okay. Who cast the fucking charm? He did. He deserves bonus. We'll give him 23 of that. Who did a lot of damage and was standing at the front? Well, Deirdre and Sligoth were. So since they're taking a greater risk, we'll give them each 22. And everybody else will get 21. And again, if you were playing this multiplayer and had to negotiate, I don't know what the hell you do, right? You're like, well, it's an uneven amount. Well, I want to win the game. You know, since the victory conditions, and these were, what I was told, these were the actual victory conditions for Death Maze, was getting out alive and having the most treasure. That was all there was. There was no Hellgate feature. There was basically no story whatsoever. Anyway, that's what we got from the treasure. Unfortunately, we didn't get a magic item or anything like that that would actually help us. All we got is cash that if we leave, we get a bonus. Well, there's a fountain. What do we do with the fountain? We look up the rules for fountains. A large bronze fountain with hyenas. We send somebody up there. Huh. Well, there's kind of this, let's send the stupidest, most useless person up there, right? And the question of that is, who is that person? I honestly think it's my dwarf. But whatever he gets to keep. So, but can trade it around and whatnot. We're going to send the dwarf up there and we'll figure out what to do. If we get like a jewel, we'll just split the money or whatever. He'll take the higher risk because of that. I don't want to deal with, like, you know, ooh, let me try it this time type of shit. So we're in a fountain. We roll a die. He gets a 5. He finds water. Well, I hope that doesn't do much. That's kind of what I would expect to find in a fountain. And we look this up, The liquid is water and has no effect. Great. All right. So we've had an encounter with a monster. We've had an encounter in a room. We've dealt with going through a doorway. I'm going to say we've seen most of the mechanisms in the game at this point, right? And the kind of stuff that I have to do. I'm going to step back. We're going to load this one up. This shows you the basic, operations of the game, as it were. We're going to step back after this video and I think not go into the same kind of detail. I don't think it's particularly useful to watch me rolling dice and moving through charts, but that's what the game's about, right? That's your whole fun in the game, is flip through, look for charts, look up various rules, figure out whether or not to cast your spells or whatnot. Obviously, this was a brilliant choice as far as I'm concerned, and it worked, which is the bigger thing. You can make great choices and they don't work. I'm not sure that my choice of characters was that good. Among other things, I don't have enough detrap capability, but I have as much as I could get, right? That's the problem you have with this game. You don't have a good thief. You don't have somebody who can deal with that Hellgate, You're just left with this, I'm hopeless. You might be able to figure out how to deal with the combat, but in doing so, you're just faced with so many problems going forward. Let's take a look at the Hellgate again. So when he dies, the Hellgate ceases to fund. To destroy the Hellgate, first you have to kill X, and a character with a Hellgate rating must attempt to destroy it. He rolls a die, and the result is less than or equal to the rating. It's destroyed. If he's higher, rolls a wound. So basically, you can just fritter away your wounds to get rid of the Hellgate, and it becomes just this dice off to see if you succeed in getting it out of the way. If you don't have anyone with any Hellgate experience, you're screwed. And if we look at my people, I actually have someone with fairly good Hellgate, and then another with Hellgate as well. So I've got a pretty good chance, if I can get through the dungeon and get to the Hellgate, of surviving the fight, of surviving dismantling it. But that may not be the case. And you might have started with no heroes with Hellgate, and therefore you had to take initiate with Hellgate, and that becomes really iffy because they don't have a lot of hit points and everything. You might just have to withdraw from the dungeon with your entire path to the Hellgate found, so you can recover and go back in. That'll be easy though. You won't have to fight anything major. You'll just have to fight wandering monsters on the shortest path. So, it's not a terrible thing, and you could make it multiple times. Problem is, of course, getting out of the dungeon, you have to fight everything on the way back. And you have to make it out of the dungeon alive anyway. So if your party starts getting weak, the Hellgate fight's going to be a big fight. You may not be able to do this in one swing, even if you get very lucky and everything. I'm wondering why that battery is not charging. A number of people seem to have fond memories of this kind of game. You have to remember, I'm not somebody who likes solo games in general. This combines a couple of aspects that I'm just not that thrilled with. It combines flipping through and looking at lots of random charts. I'm okay with solo games when they're multiplayer, right? So I get a kick out of Source of the Nile. It's basically multiplayer solitaire. I get a kick out of Tales of the Arabian Nights, which is kind of multiplayer solitaire. There's this added bonus of other people being able, doing the reading for you and whatnot. But it's really a multiplayer solitaire system. When I have to play solo systems on my own, there's nothing fun for me, right? The fun, I don't mind sitting down with other people, and this can be played multiplayer, sitting down with other people and playing out a sort of a random events type of, circumstances, and see what funny things happen. And I actually, I like I said, my past wife played this solo. I kind of wish I had sat down and played it with her and we had shared a party. But I was working or whatever, and I just like handed this off to her because I remembered having such horrible feelings about it. I think actually I would kind of get some kick out of it playing it, not necessarily opposed, but with someone the same way, so that you can kind of laugh together about the stupid shit that happens. But I also feel like this would be a lot less enjoyable than Source of the Nile, a lot less enjoyable than some other dungeon crawl type things. Dungeon Degenerates was kind of fun, stuff like that. This just feels so low grade compared to them. So, yeah, there's not a lot baked into this. It's just a wander around and fight monsters. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the computer game Wizardry, where you're just like, wandering through the tunnel, like the original. You're wandering through the tunnels and just, oh, look, monsters, fight, fight, fight. Oh, I get something. And there's just, it doesn't feel like there's any point to it or anything. Unlike, say, more recent computer RPGs and everything. It was really just a wander through the dungeon and kill wandering monsters to get to some goal. And it was all very, very simplistic and very much like translating something like this to a computer game. I played that. Why? Well, because I was hanging out with friends, and being near them and playing computer games at the same time. So that was kind of cool. But it didn't really, it's not something that I took any great joy in. I was just being around people, and fiddling with something at the same time is really all it was. I don't know. Anywho, let's send this up.